And welcome along to our luxurious surroundings. Our broadcast centre is in the Aston Martin Racing Lounge in the Rhineland TUV Tower at Pit Inn for the 2019 Nürburgring N24, hashtag N24RSL. Beautiful afternoon here. Great to have your company, the radio show listeners and viewers, already online for a second tranche of qualifying. Later on this afternoon we'll have the top qualifying, what we used to call the top 30. Numbers to be decided. We're not going to bother trying to explain to you again how it's decided. We'll just tell you how many cars there are and who they are as soon as we get the note of that. I have to tell you that might not be at the end of the session. It might be, but it might not be at the end of the session. Paul Trustwell and I, for the moment, John Hindhaugh and Paul Trustwell. And so what we're going to do is just basically look at this session in and of itself. Because
in isolation?
That was the word I was looking for, thank you. I have to say that it's always been slightly complicated here with qualifiers from various races, but at least we knew, roughly speaking, where we stood and whether the time that somebody's just done gets them into qualifying. That's not necessarily the case here, because it might be the time that somebody's done in Sector 27 that has just got them into the top qualifying. And to me, that rather takes away the excitement of covering a qualifying session.
It doesn't. I mean, the qualifying sessions in qualifying 1, qualifying 2 anyway were kind of irrelevant because they don't actually apply to what they don't actually make up the grid positions. Grid positions are made up by what happens in top qualifying. So what happens in this qualifying session is anyway kind of irrelevant. Johnny Palmer made the good analogy last night in that it's a bit like looking at Q1 and Q2 in a Formula 1 session, because as long as you're through to the next session, what time you do and which order the cars are in makes no difference at all. And to an extent, we've got that situation now. However, that is only for the top cars in the SP9 class. If you're in one of the other classes, if you're in SP7, if you're in one of the TCR classes, SP8s, then you're not going to be in the top qualifying anyway. And what they've organisers have tried to do is to make those cars that are likely to be in the top qualifying really have to work at it. They've told them that the top 80% are going to be in the top qualifying, and the rest are going to be
80%.
The top 80%. Now it's the top 80 to make it fair on the pros and the AMs. It's the top 80% of the pros and the top 80% of the AMs. So I reckon
from the top class.
From the SP9,
yeah.
Well, it's a combination of SP9, SPX, and SP9 Pro. SP Pro, which is the Toyota Gazoo Racing Lexus, car number 56, a Lexus LC. But we've got 17 cars already in for sure. We've got a further 19 on the maybe list, and so we've got a possible total of 36. But I reckon that they're going to try and make it either 29, 30, or 31. And what they will do is to see if anybody deserving deserves to be in that top 30, but otherwise you won't be in the top 30. And really, they've given themselves all options and left themselves all options open.
So what we've had so far actually stands for nothing, because you can look at it and say, for example, the Dumas Matty Campbell car is in X position, but that doesn't actually mean anything right now.
Well, it wouldn't do anyway in Nürburgring form, because
but do we know if they're in the top qualifying yet?
The Dumas one is in because it's in those that are already in. As I say, the bit that we don't know is who of the not in section, those that have what is said the possibility to qualify for top qualifying, which includes, for example, the number 6 Mercedes Black Falcon, the Conrad Lamborghini, all of the Get Speed Performance Mercedes, the 2 KCMG Nissans. Those are all the ones that are on the bubble. What we can't do is to say whether they're in the bubble or outside the bubble, or inside the envelope or outside the envelope, if they're just on the edge, if you see what I mean. So that we won't be able to do. But apart from that, as I say, once we get to the end of this qualifying session and the list for those to go through into top qualifying is revealed, then all will become clear. And in any case, as I say, in terms of who's actually at the front of the grid, we never know anyway who's at the front, and it's really just for bragging rights to say I was quickest in the second qualifying session. Where it does matter, as I say, is for the TCR class, for the SP8s, for the SP7s and so on. I think in any case, the times we saw last night are going to be completely beaten. I said that last night, that we're going to get them faster times. But last night's fastest time, in 8 minutes 24, I think we're going to be under 8 minutes 20 within the first half hour of this session. But then I said that last night. But I'm optimistic, should we say that. And just going back to your point, John, about this session being held in isolation, our timing screens are going to be combining together the times from last night with the times from today. So if you set a quick time last night and you set a slower one today, then the time we'll be getting here will be the time from last night rather than the time from today. But we'll be able to see as people get down and get close to their times. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, it's only an hour and 50-minute session with an 8-minute lap at best. Time is going to really run away from you, and I think it's going to be very exciting.
Only 155 cars seen.
Sadly, we've lost two, I know for sure. The 59 CP Racing Porsche, which you'll remember was involved in an accident with the Toyota TCHR last night. Both of those cars are out. Xavier Masson was taken to hospital after his shunt, very heavy shunt for the CP Racing Porsche number 59. He is okay, but the car sadly is finished. And the other car that was involved in that incident was car number 119, if I remember rightly, and that was the car which I suspected about 2 in the morning, we'll be quite glad is not in the race, because it was a car full of Thai drivers.
What number?
Car number 119.
Oh, is that then Natavuda?
The various Thai drivers, yes.
Mad Cow, as he's known back at home. That will be Natavuda Charon Sukawatana, Sutipon Smita Charge, Natapong Hontun Kum, and the new one on me, which is Manat Kula Palanot.
Yes, Manat Kula Palanot was the one that was in the car when it had its accident last night. So they're kind of cobbling together, because the 120 Toyota CHR was the one which stopped out on the circuit, and I think that one is having the gearbox put into it from the 119 car, which was damaged in the accident.
From the remains of it. Of
those two Toyota CHRs, we've only got one left. So that takes us down from 155 to 153, as far as I know. But it's still a very healthy entry, so I don't think we need to worry too much about that.
I do miss the days of, 100 and odd, 170 odd, 206 I think was the biggest we ever saw here. That's Paul Trustwell. Johnny Palmer is off to the right-hand side. Good afternoon, JP.
Good afternoon.
Who has already qualified then? You've got a list there which has got little green Qs next to it. So
yes.
When we're talking about top qualifying, you've got a list of those who have topped and qualified.
I've got them as far as how they've qualified so far, yes. And it makes sense now that the top three in last night's qualifying didn't hang about in setting good times, because none of those are currently through and guaranteed a place in top qualifying tonight, which I'll remind you is a 7 o'clock session through till 7:40. So 48, the Mercedes-AMG team Manfilter AMG, as the green flag is now waved, and I reckon some of that time's actually gone already, because this is due to be an hour and 50 minutes, and
Correct.
we've already had.
They've knocked 4 minutes off.
Yeah.
It's a movable feast, the timing here. It
seems
yesterday.
to be, but I presume that's because it's time critical and we're a little bit late again starting this session. Paul and I were a bit puzzled why it was an hour and 50 minutes. I think it makes sense that, if you get across the line just before the checkered flag, then you're going around again for potentially a 10-minute lap. So that would turn it into a 2-hour session. So it makes more sense to say that this could potentially run to a 2-hour long session rather than the hour and 50 that's on paper. So yeah, the top 3 from last night's qualifying, none of those cars have pre-qualified for tonight. So 48 Mercedes, the 14 Audi, that's the Marcus Winkelhock, Chris Haase, Marcel Fessler and René Rast Audi, not yet in to top qualifying, nor is the number 6 Mercedes-AMG from Black Falcon, the Patrick Assenheimer, Nico Bastian, Jelmer Berman and Gabriele Piana car. However, the next 4 are... So the 911 numbered Porsche, the 98 BMW, the number 2 Mercedes and the number 99 Rover Racing BMW are already in. 16 and 8, who were 8th and 9th yesterday, are not. So that's the Get Speed Performance Mercedes and the Iron Force by Ring Police Porsche, yet to pre-qualify. And the 101 BMW is already in, though, the Christian Krognes, David Pittard, Lucas Ordonez and Nick Yellerly BMW from Valkenhorst Motorsport. So that was 10th fastest yesterday. Other cars that are already guaranteed a spot in tonight's quick dash qualifying. Bear in mind it is just a single lap that's available to the drivers this year rather than 2 in previous iterations of the 2019 24 Hours of Nürburgring. Which BMWs have I not mentioned already? The 100 car and the 42 Schnitzer BMW, which is Augusto Farfus Martin, Tom Czech, Sheldon van der Linde and Timo Scheider. Audi's already in, number 4 and number 5 from Phoenix, and the number 29 Team Lant entry. Porsches, I've already talked about the 911, but the number 1 car is in as well, last year's winners. And the lineup there, Ricard Leitz, Fred Makovici, Patrick Pilet and Nick Tandy, as they were last year. The 31 Fricadelli Porsche already pre-qualified, as is the number 12 Manthey car. 2 Mercedes already in, the 2 and the 3. I've already mentioned the number 2, which is the Black Falcon entry of Adam Christodoulou, Maro Engel, Manuel Metzger, Dirk Muller. 1 more Porsche, the 44 Falcon car, the Kondo Racing Nissan GTR, number 45, and the 705 Glickenhaus, the SCG 003C, is already into qualifying tonight. So that means 19 other cars could potentially qualify.
Well, at least 19.
At most 19 more cars to add to the 17 we've already got.
All right. So there is a top number, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
have
it's not
to
going to be any more than
it.
36, but
Right.
it might not be all of 36. I mean, I've seen 28.
Right.
That is a likely number.
Okay.
But that's by no means a guarantee.
Right. Okay. That's especially for Rob Chalmers. Nobody else. So if you were listening there, just ignore that. That wasn't for you. Just for Rob Chalmers, who tweeted in using the hashtag RSL. N24 RSL, which I thought I'd written down somewhere. Oh, there we are, N24 RSL, at RSL_studio if you want to get in touch with us. Live from the Aston Martin Racing Lounge, the Nürburgring 24 on RS1 and RS3 in audio, and in sound and vision at www.radio-show.co.uk. Renger von der Zande out early on the Hatton back now, with a bit of room inside, coming to the last of the right-left chicanes. Takes a bit of curb on the right-hand side. The AMG GT3 from Get Speed Performance, now heading onto the main body of the Nordschleife, coming up to this awesome double, almost triple apex right-hander. 195 kilometers an hour in a GT4 car, so I'm guessing something over 200 kilometers an hour when you turn in for that. Now, heading up towards the top of the hill, Arenberg, which leads down into the Vauxhall, and gets the car into the second apex there. Had somebody right in his tailpipes there, which is very off-putting. Raffaele Marciello is in behind the wheel of the Team Man Filter AMG GT3. He's on the Grand Prix circuit, heading up to the Schumacher S's, just go past the Pro Sport Aston Martin, the red one.
Pro Sport, yeah.
Pro Sport, yes.
There's actually 2 Pro Sport Aston Martins as well, and they're painted very similarly.
Yeah.
So,
oh dear.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's tricky.
Thanks, guys.
Question for Paul, because some of the articles I read late last night after qualifying 1 stated that it was Lance David Arnold who set the time to put the car fastest, and I reckon it was Raffaele Marciello. And to be fair, some of the other articles I read did put the Italian at the wheel to set the 8:24.801. What did we have it as? I remembered Marciello, I have to admit.
It was Marciello. Yeah. I'm not saying we had it right, but
we did.
I had a list. I'm lucky enough that I get access to certain data which doesn't always get published, and one of those bits of data provided us with the driver who was in the car at the time. So it was Raffaele Marciello at the wheel of the fastest car, the number 48 Mann-Filter Mercedes. It was René Rast at the wheel of the 14 car collection Audi, one of two Audis that René Rast is down to drive, the other one being the Lant Motorsport entry. He was second fastest, 8:25.012. Nico Bastian was the driver of the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes. That's one that does have to qualify. So Nico Bastian was the driver who set the 8:25.345. Lawrence Van Toor in the 911 Porsche was 4th fastest. Tom Blomqvist was in the number 5 Rover Racing BMW. And this is what I'm not sure of, Manuel Metzger, I think, was in the number 2 Mercedes from the Black Falcon team, which was 6th fastest.
Hello to Corey Marvin, listening in Belleville, Ontario, Canada. Looking forward to this weekend. 5th year watching in sound and vision. Thank you very much. And to RM Giles, or perhaps RM Shield. He says, I've got a question for you. And I actually don't know this, so if anybody does, tweet in, please. RSL_studio, hashtag N24RSL. When you smack the barriers on a tourist lap, you have to pay for them to be replaced. And you also have to pay for any downtime as well. He says, with all the accidents in night qualifying, I'm interested to know who foots the bill, the teams or the circuit?
That gets included with your entry fee when you
sort of like a damage waiver.
When you pay your entry fee, then you don't have to pay for a large amount of barrier to be replaced as well.
Right. Okay. Well, you might as well get your money's worth, then, eh?
True. Yeah.
If you're not going to win the race, clatter a bit of barrier and feel like you've got your, you
made your mark.
Yeah. You've got your full euro. Can I have the bent bits to take home as well, please?
Stick them up on a wall somewhere.
Yeah.
The other interesting bit, if you're doing a tourist lap, is that not only you've got armcare barrier to pay for, but also the tow costs a couple of €100, I think, as well, to get you back to base.
You can't claim that back from your insurance either.
It sounds like you speak from experience.
No, I've been told.
Okay.
I have been told. We've added another fabulous Andy Blackmore design T-shirt to our Radio Show Limited store. It's inspired by the challenge of the Green Heli at the Nürburgring, available from the start of the race. If you want more details about the Mega Month T-shirts that we've already got on the store, if you go to radio-show.co.uk, look on the store button. Can't miss it, really. It's right at the top of all of our sponsors. And the guys at Full Talk Clothing will sort you out. We've got a European and a US organisation for fulfilment, and Full Talk have been doing a cracking job. And you can own a bit of genuine Andy Blackmore art, which he's produced them especially for us. It's brilliant stuff. Andy, the man behind our logos, as well as these new Mega Month T-shirts to really commemorate our 4 races in 4 race meetings and 4 race weekends. And up for grabs then, www.radio-show.co.uk with a new design available from the start of this race. And don't forget, by the way, that up until the end of the race on Sunday, if you put in Mobile One RLM when you check out, you'll get 10% discount. So you might as well order another couple. The more you buy, the more you save. So we are down to already 1 hour 35 minutes and 46 seconds. Just realised I've done something a bit daft with where I've put some of the things, because I can't now see the times on there, so I'll have to move that. This started off as a 1 hour and 50, JP, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1 hour 47 more like, I think, when the green flag came out. So, as I say, some of the time had already been eaten away because we didn't start on time. There was a Seyfarth Audi R8 Cup race prior to this, and some clearing up necessary.
I think there was almost fully 2 laps of green flag racing there.
Yeah, the safety car was out for quite a long time during that race.
Very nasty incident for one of the cars, big hit.
I think the ones we're going to, as you say though, Johnny, I think we have lost a couple of minutes as a result of the session not quite starting on time. It's going to be Get Speed who come through first of all, I think, and start setting quick times, not necessarily ones that will appear immediately on our screen as fast laps, because they'll have to improve on what they set last night in order to appear on our screen as an improvement. The 2 qualifying sessions, 3 hours from last night, and however much we get of tonight being combined together into a single session, and that makes calculating the overall top qualifiers even more complicated. But several of the, in fact all of the cars coming through now to complete laps. It's actually the number 22 Ferrari from the Wochenspiegel team that came through fairly early on. Henrik still at the wheel. 8 minutes 38.5 for him is just 3 minutes slower than he went last night. Sorry, 3 seconds slower than he went last night. 3 minutes would have been a bit slow, but just 3 seconds slower than he went last night.
This could be a very good lap for Raffaele Marciello, because he'd been following Christian Menzel for a lot of the latter portion of the lap, and then he had a perfect toe down the Dottinger Höhe, so taking plenty of curb. Italian driver in the bright yellow Manfilter livery, but now back onto the Grand Prix Strecke comes the AMG GT3 to cross the line, and it's close to yesterday's effort, an 8:29.624, but not quite outclassing the last night, which happened with about 20 minutes to go from memory.
Did he get a better sector time? Because that's really what we've got to be looking for now. So
they were absolute best. There were 3 absolute bests on that lap, so Paul, pretty good.
The sector times that we're seeing on the timing screens here, if they're showing as absolute best purple, is that absolute best, or just in this session?
I think that should be absolute.
Because that's what we've got to be looking for, because the getting into top qualifying is all about 2,224 different sectors, isn't it?
42
is the answer.
Always.
You're not going to like it.
But also, Walter Horning, clerk of the course, and a tip of the cap. I mean, we give Eduardo Freitas at Le Mans a tip, because he's always very amenable, very friendly at Le Mans. Walter Hornung is the clerk of the course race director at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, has been for many years. He's the man who probably best understands this race out of everybody in the world, and his motivation for doing the top qualifying this way was to get those who weren't in the group that had qualified to try no matter what, because what tended to happen was you'll get a slow zone out on the circuit, and so the guys won't go out or even try to get into the top qualifying group. Whereas now it is worth going out at any time, whatever's going on the circuit, and pushing on. And if he sees that kind of approach, then and sees somebody pushing hard, then he'll put you into the top qualifying. As Johnny says, somewhere between 28 and 32 is going to be the magic number that are in the top qualifying session. It will be a thrilling top qualifying session anyway later on this evening, as the air gets a little bit cooler.
I've always liked that. Now that I always have liked.
Absolutely.
Since that was brought in, they are the quickest laps that we see all weekend.
Exactly so. You get pretty much a clear track. You get drivers absolutely on it, and fingers crossed it's going to be dry as well for the whole of the session, so it'll be the same for everybody. And actually, would you notice if there was only 29 or whether there were 31 cars? No, you wouldn't. And for the guys who are just outside, they're going to be starting 33rd or 34th on the grid anyway. So, as I say, I think overall it's not going to make a whole heap of difference.
Hello to Marcel Duc, as we have an Audi
14.
R8. It's the 14 car, Fabian Schiller.
Second fastest.
Chris Haase. Chris Haase. I'm being confused by too many graphics on the screen. Oh, the ignominy being pulled in by a Mercedes-Benz. That'll not go down well, that picture with Chris Renke. Hello to Marcel Duc, who's setting himself up at Schwalbenschwanz. He said, I got showered, and he said between showered and full wet there yesterday. So he's here on the ring. Adrian Law, hello to you. Nice to know you're tuned in. He says, nice to hear the friendly voices again. this weekend as well. Georgiadis, sorry George, Georgiadis, I think is how you'd say that. Good luck sorting this out. Lots of new names coming through on Twitter from Le Mans and here at the Nürburgring this weekend. At RSL_studio, hashtag N24RSL. If you want to get in touch with us. Matt G says, everything all right? If you were out of cocktail umbrellas, then obviously you'll have to stop the broadcast or go out to full course purple. Yeah, absolutely. We are in very, very salubrious surroundings here. This is going back to our N24 routes on the weekend of the 9th and 10th of June 2007. We were here in this very spot, looking at this very wall, but with different televisions. These are the same chairs, Paul. I think we sat on them. Exactly the same. Certainly the sofa's the same. I remember Jim Roller and I having a good kip overnight on one of those. Didn't do the full overnight.
I wasn't here that first night you
were
here.
No, you weren't.
So I didn't make it until the 2008 year, but it was very, very pleasant, I have to say.
Fog overnight.
And I missed the fact that it went, I wouldn't say you stopped the race overnight, you stopped the race overnight, but it was when you stopped the race that everybody in the hotel then woke up, I think, wasn't it, John?
Yeah. Hang on, what's happening? It's all gone quiet. I remember that. We were in the Dorrant, just on the outside of the final corner of the Grand Prix circuit. And I sat bolt upright in bed because there was no noise. And the track cameras are on the TV feeds over there. So I immediately turned on, first of all, the timing and sort of didn't really register. So I flicked onto the track cameras and I thought, oh, the system's gone down. They've had to start a bit because everything is just greyed out.
Yeah.
There was nothing there. No, that was the picture. That was it. That's all you could see. Fog, fog, and more fog. And I think we lost about 7 hours of the race that year.
Something like that, yeah. Fastest lap of this session thus far has gone to the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini, which threatened on occasions in yesterday evening's session to be quick. Marco Mappelli is at the wheel of it. Arguable whether he or Michele Di Martino are the quicker of those two. But Marco Mappelli is the quickest. Mappelli is the quickest of those drivers so far. He's done an 8:25.716, which I think, Johnny, is quicker than he went yesterday, isn't it? Yes, it is, by quite some margin. So he's the quickest of today's drivers. And also going quickly today, Lucas Luer in the number 8 Iron Force Porsche. And Raffaele Marciello's time was an 8:29.624, so he got held up to the tune of very nearly 5 seconds on that lap. Although it was quick in the early phase. I wonder if he got caught up behind the Christopher Haas at Audi, which Johnny spotted.
Hello, the one being towed back. Yeah, possibly, because that would have been covered, if not by Code 60, then certainly by double waved yellow, so significant slowdown there. Sorry, John.
Quite a lot of people listening around the circuit on RS1, RS1 and RS3. Not allowed an FM transmitter here. The groundsman's very particular about that. Very different rules here about getting what we would call a restricted service license in the same way that we do in France with the French Radio Authority. Hello Monica, how are you? Tuned in from the couch, no work today? Are you kidding me? Fantastic. Big Ben up at Vipperman. First time at the ring tuned in. Lovely afternoon for it. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. And we'll be here all weekend. Try the veal. Tip the waitress. Try the Wiener Schnitzel, actually, is what we should say. Ferrari heading back towards us here. This is the number 22. Bjorn Grossman at the wheel. The black Ferrari heading into Tiergarten. Super quick entry that in a GT3 car. Holding it flat in 6th to the most unearthly late moment to change it down first to 5th. Balance the car in 4th and then slam it down to 2nd for the right-left flick. Crosses the line and an 8:25.9 with an absolute best, and the rest of the sector's personal best for Bjorn. Absolutely hanging it out in the Ferrari. Slightly slowed down as well in there when he caught up with one of the Hyundai TCRs.
Looks like the Veloster. Possibly.
I think have we got 3 different shapes of Hyundai?
We've certainly got two, might be three.
Fastback, Veloster, and a standard I-30 hatchback.
Yeah.
Shape, that is. I've fallen in love with that fastback. The I-30N hatchback, yes please. Need one of those for a real world road test. If anybody's listening, Hyundai Deutschland. Doesn't matter if it's left-hand drive. Happy to take that. And you've been enjoying the delights as well, Johnny, of the Hyundai Santa Fe, the latest generation Santa Fe.
Yeah.
For the last 10 days or so.
Yes, lots of fun that, especially when one way of getting from here back to the hotel is via a motorway, which is unrestricted speed limit wise, so that's a lot of fun.
Is it?
In the Santa Fe.
Which way do you
Well,
go
according
out?
to Joe.
No.
He's perfectly happy to drive at 120 miles an hour all the way home. That's why we keep beating you. 135 is your highest speed so far. And frankly, the Santa Fe just purring that speed.
Tick over.
Very
stable for a big car. Like it a lot. Love the quilted upholstery and the cooled seats as well. Bradley gets a big 2 thumbs up.
Macchiello has gone quicker still in the man-filtered Mercedes, now into the 21s of 8 minutes 21.393 on that last lap from Raffaele Marciello, and that's 2 laps in a row. Many of the drivers having come in at the end of their first flying lap. So number 22, the Ferrari of Hendrick, still having come in at the end of his lap. Fabian Schiller, not quite sure if we mentioned, he actually went fastest in the number 17 get speed performance at one point in today's session. Jochen Krumbach in the other Wochenspiegel team, Monchau Ferrari. Those 3, the 2 Ferraris and the get speed Mercedes, all having come into the pits at the end of their flying lap. But Raffaele Marciello has stayed out there and done a quicker lap second time around, and I think has actually stayed out to do a 3rd lap around. He's not come in to the rear of the pit entrance.
Of the current top 20, I make it only 6 cars that have already qualified for tonight's session. So certainly the top 10, the 48 Mercedes, the 22 Ferrari, and that was a cracking lap as well from Henrik Still to initially go fastest, and then Marciello came around again to go quicker and by a significant margin, 2.6 seconds as Paul's mentioned, but also improvement from Schiller, who is yet to qualify, or the Get Speed Performance Mercedes hasn't yet qualified. That's the Marcus Paltela, Janine Hill and John Schopfner car that Fabian Schiller shares. So that will be a Pro-Am car, and also the number 11 Jochen Krumbach driven Ferrari yet to qualify. So both Wochenspiegel team Monchau cars are there. The 14 machine, good job they got a lap in early, because that car having to be towed back to the pit lane. But
and that was out of Gallenkopf just coming on to the Dottinger Hohe.
But the 6, the 7, the 55, the 18 and the 16 all yet to secure a place in Friday night qualifying.
And don't forget, by the way, if you see the guys out in the mighty Santa Fe, it's dark red, and it's still got all of our Mobil 1 Radio Le Mans branding on it. Do let them into traffic. You know, it'd be nice. Also, a very dark blue Cayenne E-Hybrid on British plates with Radio Le Mans decals. A little more discreetly on that one. That's our other transport here, and thanks to both Hyundai UKPR and Porsche Cars GP for getting us to and from Le Mans and the Nürburgring. I think we've done well this year for the wheels. We really have.
Just looking at some of the other information we get on the screen here. Fastest top speed so far, and this is, you'll be able to picture this position, John, just at the end of Schwedenkreuz, just before you hit the brakes for Arenberg. 272 kilometres an hour for Marco Mappelli at the wheel of the Conrad Lamborghini. That's the fastest speed we've had recorded. We do have another speed trap on the Dottinger Hohe, but coming out of those, first of all, you come over Flugplatz, and then you're going through the left-handers, which bring you up to Schwedenkreuz, a place that Johnny and I stood and watched from, doing 272 kilometres per hour.
That's
there.
170 miles per hour, just before you hit the brakes.
Just before you hit the brakes for
and get into Arenberg. That's not hanging around, is it, through the left-hander there?
As I say, and that to me is
70 miles an hour.
Off. I just missed that one there.
I think that was the 54 BMW, possibly. There's a BMW in the pit lane, which part of its paint job is like a wood effect. And right down the middle, there's sort of timber planks. And and also down the flanks of the car as well. So I don't know whether there's some tie-in with a German equivalent for B&Q.
A forestry merchant or something.
Yes.
And there's plenty of forestry going on in this area.
But it looked very much like that BMW. I'm going to have to now work out, I'm trying to remember which one that is. Team Avia Sorg Rennsport is a BMW 335i. It might have been the 54 car. Thankfully, the car didn't clang the barrier, just a grassy moment. And with the sun beaming down, yes, it was very wet in places yesterday, but that's starting to now heat up the ground, starting to bake it again. So hopefully a grassy moment on certain parts of the track won't be very costly.
Last year's winning car, the #1 Manthey Porsche, one of the ones that Johnny mentioned, not having to bust too much of a gut in this qualifying session because they're already through to the qualifying. Ricard Leitz is currently at the wheel of it, but he's just set his fastest lap of the qualifying sessions. The car predominantly green with the yellow bonnet, that's the #1 car. Ricard Leitz, 8 minutes 27.641 for Leitz. And talking of that Porsche, the other one, the 911, the really yellow Grello one, Earl Bamber has just set a new fastest lap overall. Still haven't got under 8:20. 8 minutes 21.241. 8:21.241 for Earl Bamber in the Porsche. So it's Porsche, Mercedes, Ferrari.
Not Earl Bamber in the car.
Oh, why?
Because he told me he wasn't driving again today. He's had 2 laps this week so far, and he said he's not required again until race day. And I don't think he's even at the circuit.
Well,
so if that is Earl in the car, then there's a change of plan. Marco Mappelli going very slowly.
That's not Mappelli,
no,
that's the
Mappelli.
18 car. Probably.
Mappelli going very quickly in the Huracan through the Kleiner carousel.
Number 18 is currently in the hands of Gilles Simkoviak.
Yes.
That's one of the Get Speed Mercedes, the predominantly blue and white one. There's a very helpful, is it a graphic display, I should say, down in the paddock, which gives you the 3 Get Speed cars. It's alongside their alongside the tent where Get Speed operates from, and in their tent they've got this very helpful display which shows you the different liveries on the 3 Get Speed cars. The 16 one is the Vodafone coloured one. The 17 one is the Rooster. What is it? Rooster Rover or something?
Rooster Rojo.
Rooster Rojo.
J2 Racing.
Is the 17 one, and then the 18 one is predominantly blue and white, although I've forgotten what name it has on the side of it.
Here's Mappelli coming through the Tiergarten, held up by an Audi TCR, and he was held up there as well. That's compromised his entry onto the start line area as he heads across the line and stops it at an 8:19.347. That is
Brilliant.
his first sub 8:20. How long did that take, Paul?
28 minutes.
Yeah, you said within half an hour, didn't you?
It was a bit tight.
You were worried that Audi was going to make a liar out of you there, I think.
Quite. But no, I mean, he was well in there, wasn't he? But I mean, Franz Conrad always very hands-on with that team. He was looking at the screens that he could see down in the pit garage, and a great lap there from Marco Mappelli. And as I say, nice mixture of manufacturers up at the front, although we've now had another change because Jelmer Berman has now brought the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes, and the number 6 one is the one who is not already in the top qualifying. The other 2 Black Falcon Mercedes are in top qualifying, but the number 6 one isn't. So it is right and proper that Jelmer Berman tries to go as quickly as he possibly can. And
Van der Sande, right front puncture.
Oh.
Right front puncture coming down the Dottinger Hohe.
This is not a good lap for Get Speed Performance. That's 2 Ailing Mercedes now that are on this lap. It's Knaus is the sponsor, Knaus.
That's right.
Which is the white and blue car. And this is the red Vodafone-backed car with the yellow door mirrors. And the other car has green door mirrors, which is the Rojo machine. And there's the other car then from Get Speed Performance, which is the blue and white Knaus-backed car.
It's the Huddersfield Town car, that one.
Yeah, you could say that. Sheffield Wednesday.
That was our skill colours when I was almost 10 years ago now since I played for the skill team.
18 Ks into the lap. This is Brunchen for the number 18 car. So that's a long, long way, although not quite as long as it might have been on the Hatzenbach, admittedly. But it's not going very quickly at all. Is that another tyre that's gone down on the 18, as it has on the 16 then?
I smell some aggressive camber from the Get Speed team.
You might actually be true about that. First sighting today of the Manta Foxtail. That'll get everybody going on the Grand Prix circuit, just heading towards the chicane at the end of the lap, which is much quicker in this format of the circuit. Fantastic flowing chicane through there in third, maybe even snatch fourth. And the Manta, not much of the original car left on that now, but there it is, heading out onto the Nordschleife, the number 122 car. This was topping its class last night, and it's done enough kilometres round in race trim around here to go to Jupiter and back or something. Somebody worked it out a few years ago.
Jupiter in Florida?
No, I think actually Jupiter, the planet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. It's been a stellar performance by that car down through the years. Out of this world.
It's been here almost as often as Wayne Moore has.
Yeah, true.
I'm sure we'll be getting Wayne up here at some point during the...
Disappointing if we don't. I need another small, fluffy Kiwi.
Clip.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can send Joe Bradley down to fetch him if nothing else. If he doesn't go, I'll go and find Wayne.
Oh, Ontario, second listener in Ontario. This one from Kitchener. Hello to Mason Henry. Nursing an injured hand, but taking care of housework. I can't wait for the race to start tomorrow. Well, you'd have to.
One more sleep.
Just one more sleep. Yeah, true enough. Motorsport Matty says, I think every endurance race should have a shootout for pole. The drivers will tell you starting position doesn't matter in an endurance race, but they'll push it all to the limit when they have the track themselves. Completely agree with you. Your thoughts, please. N24, hashtag N24RSL.
Wasn't it interesting yesterday, Adam Christodoulou was stopped by the triumvirate of Johnny Joe and myself. He had no escape. He had to stop and talk to us.
Had the outflanking manoeuvre there.
We pincered him. But he was saying that actually it is important to get, at least on the first 3 rows, he said, of the grid. And he said for no other reason than otherwise, if you're not careful, there'll be a slow zone or a code 60 zone, which the leader gets through before you can get
Correct.
into. And all of a sudden, that can delay you by 30 seconds. Now, GT3 racing is so close that 30 seconds takes a lot of catching up again. And we saw last year as well, you know, these gaps, once they get out, they're quite hard to come back again. Yes, the code 60s can work in your favour again later in the race. In over 24 hours, it can help. But in the shorter VLN races, it can make quite a big difference. VLN 3, for example, the leader got away largely as a result of having, I won't say sneaked through, but having got through an incident point just before the code 60 was put in place, and everybody else had to slow down.
Hello to all the British Marshals here this weekend. As a proud ambassador for the British Motorsport Marshals Club, all of our marshals deserve our respect and thanks, whether they're here or further afield. They're in Sector 13, working alongside their European counterparts. Andrew Roberts pointing that out. Sorry you're not here this year, Andrew. Keep up the good work, and thank you for you and your colleagues' dedication. Simon Tibbett says, I haven't heard you mention Zorg Rennsport too much this year. They are here, Johnny.
Yeah.
As usual, got multiple entries.
Yes, they have. Linking up with Team Avia for the number 75 BMW M4. And there's also, they're running Audis in the SP3T category, so the 95 car. Also, Zorg Rennsport, one of many regular entries in the BMW M240i class, which is Classe Cup 5, remember, so no longer M235i's but M240s now.
Alan Space listening with an occasional peek, he says, at Sound and Vision. And thanks to Porsche Motorsport, Earl Bamber was in the car, so that was definitely, very definitely a change of plan. Had a quick chat with him I was out the booth at lunchtime, he and Nick Tandy, and Earl thought he was done for the day. Wasn't even going to go and get his overalls on. Thought he was. I said, "Are you going to drive a few laps in morning warm-up?" Then he says, "Nah. Next time I'll be in the cars in the race." He'd only done 2 laps until that point. However, plans can change. Drivers can get in as well as out of the car. Stephen Bonkers, at Stephen Bonkers, in Switzerland, Hop Suisse, tuned in, sound and vision. Alan Prosser doing fine work on motion capture as well again. And New Zealand are listening in as well. Veronica has tweeted in using the hashtag N24RSL. Keep your notes coming in at RSL_studio, hashtag N24RSL. This weekend we're live from the Aston Martin Racing Lounge, of course. And during the race, on the hour, we'll have the Hyundai race updates brought to you by the performance of Hyundai N. Feel the feeling. And we'll give you the class leaders, of which there are, what, nearly 20 different classes. So I think what we'll probably do is split them up between the GTs and the touring classes as we have done in previous years. I'll let Joe Bradley write the list for that. That tends to be his job. He's quite organised.
I've got 21 separate classes at the moment, and although that does include SP Pro as a separate class from SP9, one car that I haven't had a time from yet in this session is the SP9 LG car, which is the BMW Z4 GT, car number 50 from the Speedline Racing
And the
team.
LG, you've got to say it as last generation. Like that.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like that. It sounds like something out of Star Trek, doesn't it? Star Trek Last Generation. It's getting all the old guys back together again.
It being that because it's an older form of GT3 car, but it is the only LG car, but it hasn't actually done a time in this session yet, to my knowledge. So that will give us, as John says, over 20 classes to go through.
We'll split them up.
Yeah, we've got an extra screen for that, Joe. So if you don't do that,
We've got a newly homologated class leader screen. Yeah, that's new for this year. Jim Glickenhaus down in the pit lane. We're going to try and get a bit of time with Jim. Want to talk to him about the hypercar project and what he's bringing here next year. Raining Monkfish has tweeted in with a question on hashtag N24RSL. He said, Johnny Palmer, looking forward to another 24 hours with you.
Really?
Any news if the Toyota CHR from Thailand is back out after the crash last night? We covered that earlier on, but you might have missed it.
Sorry, which car? I'm distracted now.
It's finished. That's the Team Thailand Toyota
Yeah, unfortunately.
CHR is out of the race, as is the Pro Sport, the CP Racing Porsche car number 59, which Xavier Machen was driving. I have asked the team if possibly Joe Foster or Charles Putnam may be able to spare some time to come up and see us. Apparently they have been asked, but whether they will come up and find us or not, I don't know. They may have decided to leave the Nürburgring already, unfortunately.
Well, I know that Patty, who's normally with that team and was meant to be here this weekend, I've got a feeling Joe's got some guests down at the French Grand Prix at Circuit Paul Ricard, so it might be that he takes the opportunity to go down there and join back up with his guests, because Patty was looking after the guests down there whilst Joe was here. So that may well be the case. And Patty, if you're listening down there in the south of France, good afternoon to you. Another right front puncture, or is that the same one still coming back?
Yeah, because that car, bear in mind, can't come into the pit lane out of the Tiergarten and Hohenrhein. It's got to do a full lap of the Grand Prix circuit to actually access the pit lane.
That was the 18 Get Speed car still coming round. Martin Ragginger is in the Falcon Motorsports Porsche number 44. Falcon, as ever, running 2 cars, 2 different manufacturers, BMW, and the 44 is the Porsche. It's just coming up now to Bergwerk in a corner's time. Martin, a bit of a Nordschleife specialist, particularly in the wet. And he's putting in personal best early on. Meantime, the number 78 rent-to-drive Porsche 997, he says, until I can say the back and make myself, yeah, that is a 997. That car has a little bit of an issue on visibility. Oh, it's all gone off here, the 110. That is the KTM Crossbow, one of the KTM Crossbows. The light blue, black and highlighted yellow car has gone around on the Grand Prix track at the Dunlop curve at the bottom of the hill.
Yes, and certainly it's unusual to see people coming to grief on the Grand Prix circuit, but I think, John, people tend to try a bit harder on the Grand Prix circuit because it's not going to have such serious consequences if you fall off there.
I think it was just a bit of over-eager right foot. I wonder if the 110 had just come out the pits, actually, because it may have been that that car, yeah, just a big spin coming out of it, and one of the BMWs having to take very clever avoiding action. Meanwhile, a couple of corners further back, Jordan Tresson in the 100 Volkenhaus Motorsport car having to avoid an errant Audi R8. Who's in that 78? Do we know? It's the white and orange Porsche, and he's just come off the Dottinger Hall, and he's had to undo his belt, whoever the driver is, and he'll be looking underneath the windscreen.
Andreas Riedel is the driver of 78 at the moment, the rent-to-drive Familiar Racing Porsche, currently 5th in SP6.
Any relation to the Riedel glass family? Spelt the same way.
I don't know.
And we've got two cars struggling together because the 77 BMW is going slowly as well. The Grand Prix circuit at the moment has sort of a fast lane and a slow lane for people touring around.
Yes, it's a bonkers race at the best of times. Have we mentioned the Marco Mappelli improvement yet?
I didn't have a chance, no.
Go on then, Johnny.
Well, Mappelli's also impressed on the Grand Prix track, actually, setting 2 more personal bests as he came in, but he'd already done an 8:18.452, so it doesn't improve his position because he was already fastest. But the Conrad Motorsport Huracan GT3 Evo looking very strong in this qualifying session, that turquoise blue, and now 1.8 seconds clear of the 48 Mercedes, which has been handed over to Maxi Goertz. Although, is that car currently in the pit lane now?
48, no, it should be out on the circuit.
Okay, so the sector 1 5 minutes is actually indicative of the car being in the pits, switching to Goertz, and now heading out, presumably, onto a full lap. The SCG003C is coming now through Tiergarten and Hohenrhein, and in its bright red livery. The Glickenhaus then will cross the line. This is the number 705 machine, not currently featuring in the top 20. And that lap is not going to change that either. So car 705 is currently 33rd and is the only SPX car in the entry, so remains the class leader for obvious reasons. Martin Ragingat in the number 44 Falcon Tyres, liveried and also shod Porsche, coming through the right and the left chicane at the end of the lap. And Ragingat, having taken wins in the VLN Championship previously, goes across the line now, and it's an 8:29.7 for the Austrian driver. 8:29.7, 25th position then for the 44 car.
Just over an hour of this, about an hour and 46-minute session still to go, and traffic getting very busy indeed out there. The Mappelli Lamborghini has come into the pits and been handed over now to Axel Jeffries. Not sure that Michael Lyons or Axel Jeffries actually drove the car last night. It was certainly driven by both Michele Di Martino and Marco Mappelli, but Axel Jeffries and Michael Lyons, I don't think, drove it yesterday. Regulations demand that they do 2 laps during some point of the 2 qualifying sessions. So if you didn't do them last night, you don't have to do night laps under Nürburgring rules, but you do have to do 2 timed laps. And the car itself is required to do 120% of the time of the fastest car in its class. And and that obviously is a more or less arduous task, depending how many cars there are in your class, because some of the classes very well populated, others not so well.
Guido Naumann behind the wheel of the i30N Fastback for Hyundai. And good to see them supporting the race. They've got some official vehicles here as well. Meantime, the Rent to Drive 78 Porsche back in the pits with a very, very non-Weissach standard bonnet shape and a very, very cracked windscreen as well. And it's been sent out again though, in fairness. Fastest
car currently in SP8T is the Black Falcon Mercedes, Mustafa Mehmet Kaya, currently at the wheel of it. That's car number 46. He's done an 8 minutes 51. Second fastest in SP8T is the Aston Martin number 36 from the AMR Performance Centre, which Chris Goodwin has just taken over. He's done an 8:59.915, and then third fastest in SP8T is the Schubert BMW, car number 40, Christopher Brook. So nice and tight in SP8T between Mercedes, Aston and BMW.
So session continues, just under an hour still to go then, but delighted to say at this stage on the Radio Show Limited network of channels in the studio, we're joined by Philip Eng. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time of day it is to you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming along.
Sure.
You won't have been out in this session, I guess, but you will have been out last night.
Exactly, yes. I'm not planned for this session. My talented teammates are taking the steering wheel over. I got the pleasure to do my first night laps this year yesterday, sorry. And every lap here is incredible, and especially at night with all the lights from the fans, it's a very special experience.
Were you also out in that session that was wet part way around? Because that looks horrendous.
I was very lucky. I think I was just always ahead of the rain. So we did 2 laps on the Nordschleife, and on the second lap it started to drizzle a bit more.
Yeah.
But the rain was like 1.5 minutes behind where I was. I just caught it on the Grand Prix track, and it was horrendous. It was very, very, very dangerous, but we managed well.
I suppose, I mean, the forecast actually for the race looks pretty good. I'm not sure what your forecast is saying, but I mean, in previous years we've had dreadful conditions and the need for red flags sometimes, because there was a year when it hailed and the track froze over pretty much. We've had really bad fog as well that forms in the valley. I mean, they call this place the Green Hell. That's partly because of the track, but also because of this microclimate that the Nordschleife seems to have.
Exactly. I remember very well in 2016, Dirk Werner was starting our Rover 99 car.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the radio, and he said, "I'm stuck." And we all said, "Oh God, he's stuck somewhere in the gravel." But then we actually saw the helicopter shots, and he was stuck in Fuchsröhre. There was so much hail, and there was no way he could make it up there. So the place is called Green Hell for a reason. The track is absolutely amazing. It's incredible to drive here in a GT3 car, and with all the micro climate zones here, it makes it extremely special, and every lap is just pure joy.
7 days is a long time in motorsport. I'm thinking back to your activity last weekend, and now we change completely. I mean, the thing with BMWs is, you know, you've got an M4, an M6 and an M8 in motorsport currently. Does that take much adjustment to the dimensions of the M6 and obviously the traction control and the ABS that you've got on a GT3 car?
I'm lucky enough that I was involved in a lot of testing together with BMW on any of the cars. Even in the GT4 I did quite a lot of development testing. So somehow I managed to adapt always. It may take 1 or 2 laps until you are 100% familiar with the M6 again, coming from the M8. But all cars are super fun to drive. The GT4 is a super good race car, very good customer car. The M8 is the ultimate GT car. And then the M6 is, I think we don't need to lose too many words about it. It's an incredible machine. Now I got it out. So all
I thought
cars
you were
are
just
really
saying
good.
Four Incredibles because it is so good.
Exactly.
Christian Krognes with the drama, though, I noticed, for Valkenhorst Motorsport. The 101 BMW is going rather slowly at the moment. But as far as pre-qualified cars, I think the BMWs might have the most in already. Certainly your car is in, and the sister car.
Yep.
So Rover, absolutely fine. You need to get some miles in these qualifying sessions, but does that take the pressure off, knowing that you're into tonight's entertainment?
Yeah, definitely. I think the only BMW who is not in is the Falcon car, as far as I know.
Number 33.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think they're still fighting for it. Obviously, I think it's a bit more difficult to get into the top 30 shootout. Oh, there is a little off.
Yes, for the Rooster Rojo Get-Speed Performance Mercedes, which loses it into... we're lucky in this Aston Martin suite to have a simulator of the whole track. And I always struggle on the Grand Prix circuit, not the Michael Schumacher S. That seems relatively easy because it's just off being flat. But that's a really tough then into the much slower Michelin curve. That left-hand, is that tough in real life as well?
Yeah, you need to know how much you can use the banking and the off-camber, and especially in the first left-hander, the curb on the exit helps you quite a lot. But you need to choose your entry speeds very wisely, because then if you drop a wheel over the curb, you will end up having a big oversteer. So you just want to lean against the curb, and then it sort of settles the car and is super nice.
We're also partway through a DTM season for you. So how's that going? And again, a very different world of motorsport.
Yeah, the new DTM cars, the turbo era is incredible. Every time I drive out of the pit lane, I just realize how quick it is, and the torque and the power is incredible from the 2-liter turbo engine with 600 brake horsepower. It's a proper racing machine, and the cars are so much fun to drive. The racing is very good. I think we've only had eventful and interesting races so far. It's been running quite well. I'm sitting second in the championship at the moment, 10 points behind René Rast, who is the leader. But we have only done 6 races so far, so it's still a very long way ahead.
I'm looking forward to August when you come back to the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit.
Me too.
Because that was a cracking event last year. Good to have the DTM back in the UK. Paul?
Yeah, just a question for Philip as well. Coming to the Nürburgring, people were telling me the BMW is the car to beat. However, having watched qualifying last night and seeing qualifying now, I know people aren't necessarily pushing as hard, but the Mercedes looks quite strong as well. When you were out last night, were you kind of eyeing them up and seeing where maybe the Mercedes had an advantage, or does the BMW feel strong?
Yeah, they looked very strong last night. I think they haven't had the chance to show their real potential until last night, because obviously they had quite many cars who are not in the top 30 shootout yet. So they had to put everything on the table they had. So they look very strong. But as BMW, I can say that we have a very good race car. I think we are pretty quick, but it's very drivable. So especially in the night, sometimes when conditions are not very clear with damp patches, etc., it's really important and nice to have a race car which is good to drive, and the drivability is very good.
And I was able to observe the BMW. You were on the podium as well, but how much did it hurt you with the Rover team car, seeing the Valkenhorst team car up there, or were you just happy that they were all BMWs?
I unfortunately wasn't involved, so this was all down to my teammates. So full credit to them. In the end, we're one big family. BMW is a big family, but of course I'm a sportsman. I'm a racing driver, and I want to be the one who stands on top of the podium. So of course it's in German, I don't know if you can translate it one-to-one, but it's a laughing and a crying eye. I don't know if that makes sense in English. Yeah. In German, it certainly does.
Yeah, I mean, smiling and laughing, or tears of joy, sometimes we say as well. No, I mean, as I say, it's almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost BMW's turn to win, because we've had Porsche winning, we've had Mercedes winning, BMW haven't won for quite a few years now. Do you feel this could be 2019 could be a BMW year? I
really, really hope so. I have many goals in my racing career, and I would say that to win this race is probably one of the biggest dreams. it's, I think, the toughest race to win in GT racing, given the facts of the characteristics of the track, the weather, the climate. So it's a tough one, and there is no room for any mistakes because of the track and because you have no safety cars. So there is never neutralization in the race. So you gotta be there from lap 1 with the lead group, and of course you need some luck, but in the end the best one wins anyway.
What's the mood in the camp between the 98 that you're in, along with Connor De Filippi, Tom Blomqvist and Mikkel Jensen, and the 99? Is there a proper bit of friendly rivalry between those two?
I must say that I don't know how it is with other manufacturers, but in the BMW camp we are all friends. Within the teammates. We always go out for dinner together. We meet up outside of racing as well. So of course there is a, let's say, healthy rivalry because everybody wants to win, but we are very open. All 8 drivers discuss about racing lines, discuss about where to brake or where not to brake. So the data is fully open. Obviously, setup is very open. So in the end, it's important that the BMW wins. In an ideal case, personally speaking, it's mine, but we are all here to achieve that goal, that the BMW stands on top of the podium on Sunday afternoon. You
raced here last year, right?
I didn't last year, but the years before I did.
Have you done VLNs
yes.
last year? Because I was reading last night that quite a lot of, well, some parts of the circuit have been resurfaced recently. How are they, and are they very different from previously?
To me, the biggest change is Schwedenkreuz, which is new tarmac also now. And in the past, you had quite a big bump just before the apex there.
Yeah.
So it didn't make the corner easier, but it made it a bit nicer because this bump would upset you a little bit, would upset the balance. And Piff Puff is the second one after Kallenhardt. The fast left-right, and then the triple right-hander, the miss-hit-miss, is, or hit-miss-hit, that's the way.
Miss-hit, okay, I'll remember that for the sim later on.
So those are the 3 spots, I would say, with the biggest impact on corner speed and drivability.
I think we saw a Mercedes going through Schwedenkreuz in this session, 272 Ks, which I'm not sure you were able to do in previous years. That's nearly 170 miles an hour. Right before you hit the brakes for Arenberg. So how is the braking area into Arenberg as well? Is that relatively stable? Yeah,
you need to see it as a compromise a little bit, because obviously you can probably do it almost flat in a GT3 car. Yeah. But then you end up completely on the right, which upsets your braking for Arenberg.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a give and take, but as a racing driver, it's always cool to be quick in the high-speed corners. But in the end, we're always on the hunt for the optimal lap time.
Of course, and you've got to always bear in mind which corner comes before and after, rather than just taking that corner in isolation.
But braking is pretty tricky then, because you arrive high speeds, the car is not completely straight.
Yes.
So braking sometimes is a bit tricky there.
Yeah, no, I can entirely understand that. So the plan for later on, the Rover BMWs are in. You will have decided who's qualifying on the single lap, but you're probably not going to tell me.
I don't know if I can.
Okay,
I heard rumors who will do it,
but
and
the thing I think, previously, has it been 2 laps that everybody gets, 1 driver and 2 laps, and that's changed this year to a single lap qualifying. So I mean that is high pressure.
I was lucky enough to have done it in 2017, which was still 2 laps.
Yes.
And it was one of the best moments I had in a race car ever, because it's just you and the track and the car, no traffic. And when I drove back to Park Fermi, I really had to get out of the car and sit down for 5 minutes because it was so intense. You had to push so hard for this lap time. And in a 24-hour race, it's not super important where you start, but nowadays I think it plays a role just to stick with the lead group in the beginning. So this was, I'm not doing it, this I can tell you, but I'm super happy with our pick, or our picks, with the 2 drivers that will do it. Super talented, super quick, and fully deserve to qualify our cars.
I mean, whoever it is, I don't think there's any
question.
Who
do you think it is? Give me a guess.
That's very tough. Connor De Filippi won the race 2 years ago, so I know he is mighty around here. If it's not you, I'm going to go for him in your car. And the other car, That's tough. Marco, I'm going to say, Marco Wittmann.
Cool, we'll see.
I'm looking over at Bex Jones as well to see whether she's giving anything away regarding chit-chatting. Okay, fine.
I think you do have to nominate
as well.
I think you do have to nominate those drivers earlier now, though. I think Race Control have asked that you nominate who the drivers are.
Yeah, is it prior to this session, in fact? So I think maybe even the decisions have been submitted to the officials, but the officials won't tell us.
They haven't come through to us yet.
We'll get a bulletin eventually.
I mean, anyway, I don't think it's a huge secret, but
no,
you know how it is sometimes.
We like to play that game. That's absolutely fine. The Mercedes, which is second fastest in the session, just catching a bit of traffic on the way into Brunchen. It's so tough, isn't it? You get a good run through one corner, and then often through a blind right or a blind left, you catch a slower car, which is also probably going for a time, mind you. You can't expect them to just jump out of the way because you want to get past.
Not at all. I think what's extremely important in this race is that you give respect to get respect. Also, the slower cars, they all have the drivers have a memory. So I think, whenever you play games with them, they play it back, which is fair enough. So, in my eyes, it's just important to give respect to get it back.
Yeah, entirely. Good stuff. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, you're not in the car later on, so you can just relax a little bit. And I suppose the fact that there are 4 drivers in each of your cars means you get more time off compared to Le Mans.
Exactly, yeah. But I think it's also nice because Le Mans, in terms of mental, the mental strength you need is not as high as here.
Yes.
Here you need to be always 1000% focused and concentrated with all the slower cars. So it's intense, and I'm happy we are 4 drivers. In Le Mans, it's possible to do it with 3, but I'm happy that we are 4 talented guys on this car.
It makes sense because I mean, really, the Dottinger Höhe is your Mulsanne straight around here.
Exactly.
And that is the only time, I suppose, that you can just start to take a moment to think a little bit and plan your next lap.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you are forever busy. And the Grand Prix track, you think that's an easy start to the lap. That's the highest braking of the whole lap, isn't it, pretty much?
Yeah.
And an awful lot of steering as well and dodging all the traffic. So, yeah, make use of all this off time, I would.
Will do. Thank you.
And we'll look forward to how you get on with a very strong car, we think, this year.
I would, like I already said, this is a very big dream which I have in mind to win this race. It's my 4th participation, so it's time now. I would really like to win.
Philip Eng, thank you ever so much for joining us. And
thank
you.
you.
If you find some time in the race,
anytime,
do pop up and come and have another quick word as well, because it'll be great to update our listeners on how those BMWs are doing. So Phil is in the number 98, and the 99 being Nicky Katzberg, Marco Wittmann, Jesse Krohn and John Edwards. And the 101 car that was having dramas a little earlier on, Christian Krognes, I think now has made his way back to the pit lane, although that will have been, of course, after a Grand Prix lap as well, because there's no way into the pits at the end of Tiergarten and Hohenrhein, as we've already stated. Michael Lyons is now at the wheel of the number 7 Lamborghini, and that's the Conrad Motorsport car that currently tops the session. New good time into second place, though, for the number 4 Audi. So Phoenix Racing, with their Michelin shod R8 LMS, bagging second place in qualifying, and that is a car that's already into tonight's session. Both of the Phoenix Audis, 4 and 5, but on different tyres. Remember, the 4 is on Michelin's and the number 5 is on Dunlop tyres, but nevertheless, Fred Vervish has just done that car's best time at 8:18.527. Very, very close indeed, Paul Truswell, to the fastest time we've had already. That is only 75 thousandths of a second off Marco Mappelli's time from earlier on in the Lambo.
Yes, 2 cars in underneath 8 minutes 20 so far, and 40 minutes still to go in the session, so still plenty of opportunity for improvements. And having been talking to Philip Eng there about whether BMW is dominant, the first BMW in the list of times at the moment is quite a long way down. I think it's 15th is the best BMW thus far in the on the screens. No, it's Jesse Cronin 12th. Possibly. No, it is 15th. Jesse Cronin's time. No, 17th.
Yeah.
Jesse Cronin's time is.
In fact, that Tom Blomqvist in the 98 car is
16th. Yeah, so 16th and 17th are two best BMWs from Rover Racing. But as Philip Eng was saying, they don't need to try in this session because they're already sorted for the top qualifying session, which takes place this evening. The next BMW up in the list there is the Schnitzer car, number 42, which Farfus is at the wheel of at the moment. Looking out of the window, because we do get a window here, you can see the number 14 car collection Audi being returned on the back of a flatbed to the paddock. That was the car that was in the hands of Christopher Haase, wasn't it, Johnny? Right at the beginning of the session, was quick in the early stage,
yes.
But stopped, I think, pretty much on its first flying lap. Hasn't recorded a lap in this session, recorded its lap from yesterday. Christopher Haase in the car collection Audi that he shares with Marcel Fessler, Markus Winkelhock and René Rast.
Yes, and it started this session from yesterday's times in second position, I think.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That time of 8:25. That's a good bellwether actually, because 8:25.012 was the time from last night.
Yep.
Second fastest last night, 20th in combined times, combining last night's and today's times together.
But again, the sectors that go towards making a theoretical best time will have been recorded for the number 14. So even though it hasn't had a lot of the session because of that early drama, it could still make qualifying tonight because of the hard work that its drivers have done already through the 42 different sectors that we have, or at least that the officials have, as a reference point.
As far as SP7 is concerned, talk about the classes for a minute. So SP7, I like to think of as being the second fastest class. Müllner Motorsport is fastest in SP7, car number 62 Porsche, and that's Moritz Krantz at the wheel of that car at the moment. It's done an 8 minutes 40.436 in this session. Second fastest in this session in the SP7 class is the Huber Motorsport Porsche, so it's Müllner against Huber, 62 ahead of 63, and then third, and I promise you I've sorted this by time, not by number, is number 64. So it's 62, 63 and 64, the top three cars in SP7. Müllner Motorsport leading Huber Motorsport, and then Black Falcon in the third fastest SP7 class car. In SP8T, I mentioned a little while ago, that's being led by the Black Falcon Mercedes. Black Falcon have a Porsche that they're running in SP7. Obviously they have the Mercedes that they're running in SP9, but they also have a Mercedes GT4 class car that they're running in SP8T, and that's the number 46 car, which is fastest in SP8T, ahead of the 36 Aston Martin, which is being driven by Chris Goodwin at the moment, and Chris Goodwin will be sharing with Christian Gebhardt and Darren Turner. Not quite sure whether that was a Darren Turner time or a Chris Goodwin time, but anyway, the car is currently in the hands of Chris Goodwin. And then third in SP8T is the Schubert Motorsport BMW, car number 40, Ricardo van der Ende at the wheel of that car, BMW M2. So SP8T quite close. You got a chance to talk to Ricardo van der Ende yesterday or the day before, Johnny. Looking forward to his weekend at Nürburgring, I think.
He certainly is, and I overheard him saying to a few friends of his that the early phases of this race, i.e. the first 9/10 of it, all about survival. You don't want to do anything heroic, you just want to stay out of trouble, as the Lamborghini darts from behind one of the many Pixum Team Adrenaline cars, the blue and orange machines. That's a BMW heading out of the Hohenrhein, and Michael Lyons leaping from one side of the circuit to another in the Raging Bull. That was a time, though, that was about 11 seconds off the earlier pace from Mark Emmapelli.
Glad that Michael Lyons finally in that car, because it took him a while to get in. As I say, he didn't drive it last night either. Continue just to look through the times, because these do count for grid positions, of course. If you're not in SP9, then these times are the grid position times. SP8T we were just talking about. SP8 is being led by the number 49 Porsche. Shaba Volto is at the wheel of that car at the moment, the Rent to Drive Familia Racing Porsche, ahead of the Lexus RCF. We talked about the Lexus that's in SP9, the LC, but the RCF is a SP8 class car, and that has Takitoshi Matsui at the wheel at the moment. It's car number 20, which is second in SP8. And in SP10, old friend Claudia Hurtgen, car number 71, the Hoffer Racing BMW is quickest in SP10 at the moment, ahead of Philip Leisen in number 77. So 71 ahead of 77 in SP10. That's the Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport BMW. And third in SP10 is Arne Hofmeister in the Leuthäuser Racing car, number 74. So SP10, story of BMWs with the Hoffer Racing car fastest of all at the moment.
You're listening to the Radio Show Limited network of channels, RS1, bringing you live coverage trackside of qualifying 2 ahead of this year's Nürburgring 24 hours. And moving into the RSL studio is Joe Bradley. Good afternoon, Joe.
Afternoon, gentlemen. Just spotted the number 4, that's the Phoenix Audi, that's currently in second place on the timing screens. That's been returned to the paddock on a flatbed, and the team have hurriedly taken it back into its awning.
You sure it was number 4, not number 14?
Was it number 14?
It was, because I saw the car collection car being brought in. On the back of
sorry,
flatbed,
yes, it was the car collection car. Yes, sorry, 14.
14, okay.
14's been returned.
Whilst you were on the balcony looking at that, I saw it through the window.
That's the car with the very strong lineup.
Yeah.
There was a sense of massive urgency there as they wheeled it back in.
Yes, well,
Where is it in the field, Paul?
Well, it's down to 21st now. That was the car that was second on its time based yesterday.
And I make it 12th fastest of the non-qualified cars so far. So there are, in that top 20, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars that are definitely going to qualify tonight in top qualifying, but the 14 is not one of them, and there are 11 cars ahead of it that have not qualified either.
I'm not sure what has brought that car to a halt, but it did grind to a halt. It didn't have an accident.
No, it grind round to a halt on its first flying lap. With Christopher Haas at the wheel. What I need to do is just see which drivers have qualified it yet, because 2 of its drivers, Christopher Haas and who's the other one at the wheel of the 14? Christopher Haas and Rene Rast are in 2 cars, and in order to qualify, they do have to qualify both cars, so they have to do 2 laps in one car and 2 laps in the other. So I just need to check on that, but that would certainly, Joe, be an explanation for the hurried activity on the 14 car. Still got just over half an hour of this session to go, so if they can get it fixed quickly, then no reason why they can't get some laps done at least.
Hopefully it's something silly, not something major that will take them out of tonight's qualifying.
True. Well, this session will end at 4:45 local time, and qualifying tonight takes place at, top qualifying takes place tonight at 7. So you've got the best part of 2 hours in order to repair that car.
If it's something like gearbox change, an engine change, that's pushing it.
Isn't it?
Yeah. 2 hours. I think we've seen an Audi gearbox change in 2 hours.
At Le Mans.
No, I'm thinking of an R8. Well, I've certainly seen an Audi R8 gearbox change in 4 minutes, but that's not the same sort of R8.
Okay, fair enough.
It was the prototype R8 that they were able to do that with.
Yes. Very busy indeed at the chicane that starts the lap, and there's now a Fricadelli Porsche circulating with the Valkenhorst BMW. They are at the carousel, so Klaus Abelin in the number 30 car. Now, there's one Fricadelli Porsche already into qualifying, that's the 31, but the 30 isn't quite there yet. And where is that on the timing? I notice there's a yellow flag out on the lap as well. Abelin currently in 30th position in car number 30. Where's the yellow flag is the next question.
Callanhard.
Okay, yes, with a slow zone in place as well.
But of course, that's the fact that there is a slow zone isn't necessarily going to stop you going for a fast time. And if you can set fast sectors around the rest of the circuit, then that will stand you in good stead to be in the top qualifying. My preliminary calculations that I did this morning, Johnny, rather than you were doing yours last night, as far as top qualifying was concerned, of the 19 cars that are not in, that have the possibility to qualify for top qualifying, I reckon we're going to lose 4 to 5 of the pros and 2 to 3 of the pro-ams. Now the number 30 Piccadilly one is one of the pros, and that is one of the ones that might be therefore struggling to get qualified. As far as the 14 car collection Audi is concerned, both Marcel Fessler and Markus Winkelhock drove it last. Correction. Markus Winkelhock and René Rast drove it last night. Christopher Haaser and Marcel Fessler have still got to drive it. So Haaser has done half a lap, that won't count. He'll have to do another 2 laps. The guy who's in difficulties possibly is Marcel Fessler. However, if he doesn't qualify, I would suggest that as a former winner of the race, they might allow him to start, even if he doesn't actually do his 2 qualifying laps.
Callanhard is now clear, so there are green flags all around the track, as I reckon the 705 Glickenhaus improved on that lap, so 705 into the top 20 to now be in 19th position. And I'm desperately trying to work out who set that time. FER must be Felipe Fernandez Larza. Do you agree with that, Paul? Yes.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
Good. And also, Maro Engel, 8:18.757. That's a relatively new time, is it not, to put the number 2, the Black Falcon Mercedes, up to 3rd fastest in the combined sessions.
Yes, that was his last flying lap for Maro Engel in the number 2 Mercedes. That car having been dominated this morning by Dirk Muller. Adam Christodoulou and Manuel Metzger drove it last night, as far as I know. And so Dirk Muller's driven his laps. Maro Engel now at the wheel, and that is the fastest lap for that time, with a purple sector in Sector 5, which is the very long sector which starts just before Arenberg and takes you all the way around to just out of Bergwerk. So it's a very long sector, that one. And it was the fastest sector of the session so far for Maro Engel.
And another car improving is the 29 Van der Linde driven Audi from Team Lant. So that's Kelvin Van der Linde, is it? Isn't it in the 29 car?
It is, Kelvin.
Yeah, sharing with Christopher Haaser, René Rast and Chris Mees. It remains to be seen whether René will actually drive that car, because he's already put qualifying times in for the number 14. Indeed, that's the reason why that 14 car was 2nd fastest overnight, because of René Rast's lap time.
Christopher Haaser already also down to drive the 14 car collection car, as well as that one.
Yes.
As I say, there's the 2 drivers are actually potentially slated to drive the 2 cars. So if the trick with driving 2 cars is, if you jump from one car to the other, you have to have a 2-hour break. If you do more than 2 hours, sorry to put that differently, if you do less than 2 hours in a car, then normally you can get in again without having a break. But
you can get in either of them
into
again.
the same car.
Right.
So if you're in one car, you've driven it for an hour and a half, then the other driver drives it for half an hour, you can get straight back in again. Right? If you're getting into a different car, you have to have a 2-hour break.
Right, okay.
So Haaser and Rast are going to have to be a bit careful with that. I mean, with the 2 other drivers as well, that both Lant and Car Collection have. But I think certainly reading one of the interviews with René Rast, he was very happy to be, and to me it seemed a bit complicated with jumping from both cars, but he seemed very happy to be driving in both cars, and said really in other words, it gives him double the chance to win. And he was going to try and get on 2 steps of the podium at the same time. So nothing to stop him doing that, of course. Just a question for Johnny, although I know he's in the middle of trying to plot something else at the moment.
No, that's fine.
But the tyres that Lanta are using, we know that Lanta are on Michelin tyres, don't we? Car Collection, are they on Michelin as well?
I think so.
Right.
Again, that list is not
that's
completely done yet.
That's a job for us to do.
Car Collection on Michelin's?
Yes.
Yes,
they are. Right.
Yes.
Both their cars are on Michelin's. Right. Okay. I was just wondering, because I seem to remember last year we had a driver who was jumping from one car to the other. As far as memory serves, it was Pierre Caffer who drove 2 cars last year, and one of them was on Michelin's and the other was on Dunlop's. And so he was driving 2 different cars in the race. They were the same car, they were Audi R8s, but they were running on different tyres.
Yeah.
Someone like Pierre Caffer.
Well, yes, quite. But
you've got to remember which car you're in at any one time, surely. And that's a little bit like the Corvettes that ran at Sebring, Antonio Garcia et al. Because one series has tyre warmers, the other series doesn't, and you're exiting the pit lane thinking, well, which one am I in? Am I going to have any grip at turn 1 or not? So these are the things that, can very easily force your brain to think.
That's why they're professional racing drivers and
we
we're
sit
not.
here.
The foxtail is off at the side of the track.
That's the Manta.
Get the tracker up and see where it is. The foxtail is off with yellow flags. I'm not sure it's off in a big way. It's just pulled off to the side before I frighten anyone.
It's causing a double yellow flag, though, so 120 kilometres an hour speed restriction in that area. It's an Opel Manta, number 122, running in SP3. Olaf Beckmann, Peter Haas, Volker Streichek and Jürgen Schulten, the 3 drivers of that car. And currently behind the wheel of it is Volker Streichek, the man who's probably done more miles with the Foxtail than anybody else has. But that car off at a place where Joe Bradley will tell us in a minute. He's remembered his password. And
trying to download a new map, would you believe?
There we go. We've also got a slow Hyundai out on the circuit, that being the 171 car. This is the Mark Bassing, Nico Verdonk, Moritz Österreich, Manuel Lauk car, which is certainly one of the favoured Veloster from the Hyundai, running in the TCR class.
Not looking like there's any damage on that car, Paul, just running slowly, and of course he's already passed the pits, but having to do a lap of the Grand Prix Strecker as the pit entrance is around the other side of the circuit. And the Foxtail, the Manta, has gotten itself restarted. Car 601.
It's not number 601, it's just a number on the windscreen that's 601. It's actually number 122.
Right, why has it got 601 on the windscreen?
Just because it has.
All right, okay.
Is that like how
it's got a Foxtail hanging from the aerial?
In the previous
I
years,
think it probably is, yes.
Number that's
yes.
Connected with that car.
Yes, when I got down close to it, when I was wandering around the garages yesterday, I thought, it's 601, and couldn't find it in the list, and then looked on the door where the proper number is, and it's number 122 for the Opel Manta.
Glad to hear I'm in good company, falling for that one.
It was at one point it was leading the SP3 class yesterday, and it is leading the class at the moment as well in SP3. So Volker Streichek, the lap time for that car, 10 minutes 0.662. 10 minutes 0.662 for the Opel Manta, is fastest in SP3. And SP3 is a very well populated class as well, so it's not like it's just keeping ahead by virtue of being alone in its class. It's got a Toyota GT86 second in class. That's the number 127 car, and then third in SP3 is another Toyota GT86, car number 123. So that's how things stand in SP3.
Car 171, the Hyundai, has made it back to the pits, Paul.
Looked to me a bit like it might have had a puncture.
It didn't look like it.
No,
there was no. It looked fully intact. No bodywork damage. It's made its way back to a very crowded pit lane, and we'll maybe get an opportunity to fathom what the problem was that brought that car back to the pits very, very slowly indeed. Can't think it would be something like running out of fuel, or car pulls into its pit garage now, and all 4 tyres look pretty much intact. The car looks intact. So problems for the 171.
Yeah, one of the leading Hyundais, as I say, with Nico Verdonk amongst the driving lineup. Manuel Laut currently second in the TCR class. It's a Hyundai 1.2 in TCR with the i30. This is a Veloster that Joe's been talking about coming into the pits. The i30N, Peter Terting, number 170, is quickest in TCR. So the TCR's being first and second by the 2 Hyundais.
I'm reading the body language and gesticulations from the driver of that 171, and it looks to me as though he's brought it in because of a vibration. He gave the international gesticulation of holding his fist in front of him and kind of shaking them, indicating that the steering wheel was shaking itself to bits. Well, the car was shaking itself to bits.
He was feeling it through the steering wheel. Third in TCR at the moment is the 173 car, and that's in the hands of Andre Gies. Andre's time a 9 minutes 20.287. That compares to Manuel Lauk, who's done a 9 minutes 0. So it's done 20 seconds separating second and third in TCR.
The session leader is back in the pits, Michael Lyons, but it's still a Lamborghini Huracan that leads the way currently. So clearly that car's got some pace for tonight's 7 o'clock session for top qualifying. Very, very close indeed for Maxi Goertz, who gets bottled up behind the 110 Teichmann Racing Crossbow, KTM Crossbow. And that's a patience game heading through the carousel, not only if you were on your own, but also if you're caught up behind slower traffic. And then thankfully the KTM driver was able to jink off the natural racing line to allow the yellow AMG through.
He's not on a fast one, is he? This is not in any way, shape or form a fast run in comparative terms. He's showing grey sector times. He's in sector 7 now.
They're all there or thereabouts, but I think because of the traffic he's caught in various places, it's not going to be an improvement for Maxi Goertz in the 48 HTP Motorsport prepared Mercedes, or though it's the man-filter car as we know it.
I think we've got pretty much green flags all the way around the circuit at the moment, which is good news for anybody who does want to go more quickly. And just a reminder, the times where we're giving you times and positions outside of the SP9s, these are real times. These are grid position setting times. So in SP7, we're looking at the Müller Motorsport Porsche number 62. Ahead now of a change. That's the Clickfares DE team of Robin Sharnowski. Number 69 is second in SP7. Third in SP7 is the Huber Motorsport Porsche number 63. TCR, as I say, being led by the 170 Hyundai.
Interestingly, the top 4 SP7s currently are all in the pits. So there is no hurry to get any better times than that.
It's interesting, yes.
You can admit that qualifying is sort of irrelevant when it comes to a 24-hour SP7 race. So are they all admitting, well, we've given all that we can, and now I'm just going to sit out the final 16 minutes, because if they want to get back involved, you're going to have to leave the pit lane in the next 5 minutes, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, you can get onto a flying lap in less than 3 minutes.
That's
because,
true.
You only have to go around the Grand Prix loop.
Very good point.
You want to have the time to be able to do that and make sure the car is set up nicely to your liking. SP8T, that's being led by the Black Falcon Mercedes, number 46, with the Aston Martin, number 36, in second, and third, the Schubert BMW. SP8 is being led still by the 49 Red 2 Drive Porsche. Cup X in the hands of Teichmann Racing, number 111. That's on the provisional pole there. SP8, we talk about SP3T. That's the Subaru leading that class. And that's number 88 on pole. SP10 being led by Hoffer Racing BMW M4, number 71. And Cup 3, another Müllner Motorsport car. This is the Müllner Motorsport Porsche. That's the GT4 CS car, number 303. That is on pole position provisionally in SP3 S Class Cup 3.
By the way, throughout the race, on the hour, we have the Hyundai race update, the performance of Hyundai N, Feel the Feeling. And we've added another fabulous Andy Blackmore designed T-shirt to our Radio Show Limited store, inspired by the challenge of the Nürburgring. It's available from the start of the race. And if you click on the store button at www.radio-show.co.uk, then that is where you can order that Andy Blackmore designed T-shirt.
Just want to stress the start of the race, Johnny, not what I've just done and gone looking for it
right now.
And failed miserably. It's not there.
No.
It will be there at the start of the race.
Which is 3:30
So don't excite yourself and get all excited and then, you know, deal with the disappointment of not finding that Nürburgring 24-hour design.
Yeah, although there is now less than 24 hours to wait for that.
Yeah.
23 hours to be exact.
Ooh.
Before that is available. The
Got a
Get
fast
Speed
run, Johnny.
Mercedes, yeah, this is the one with the yellow door mirrors.
Oh, he's
which
been
is
bought massively, though, by the crossbar.
by the 111 Teichmann car. That's number 16 then. So this is Jan Seifert, I reckon, yeah, coming through the Tiergarten and Hohenrhein and over the line, and Jan Seifert does improve, but what sort of an improvement would it have been had he not been delayed so much heading into Hohenrhein there? 8:19.127, which is only nearly 7/10 of a second slower than Michael Lyon's time. He easily lost that amount of time in the final run, Joe.
There was only 2 of those sectors, Sector 5 and Sectors 9, that were grey. Every sectors 1, 2, 3 and 4 were green. That's personal best.
Lost 1.5 seconds,
Sector 6
I reckon, in that final
was
bit.
green, a personal best. He got a purple Sector 11, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sorry, Sector 7, purple. So a great run from him. But you could clearly see how he was bulked massively by the Expo in the final sector, just as he ran towards Tiergarten.
Which I reckon was the treble one car that is top of Cup X currently. The Teichmann Racing entered Crossbow GT4, driven by a driver known simply as Maximilian.
Yes, I think he's different from Max, isn't he? Because we've got another driver in the VLN that we see quite a lot of, who's called Max. I think Maximilian is a different...
There's a Max and a Jens,
yes,
there,
exactly,
that drive GT3s, but not Crossbows.
That's right, yes, quite. We have the master of all pseudonyms downstairs, because Janos Wimpfen, who listens to us from time to time, has a big chart of drivers' pseudonyms, a bit like he has a big chart of cars' chassis numbers. He knows what the real chassis number is, and he knows what real drivers' names are. Although sometimes we're allowed to talk about who the driver really is, and sometimes he says, this is who he really is, but you're not allowed to say so.
Maxi Good's going for it as he drops down the hill towards the bridge. Meantime, the 52 BMW is going off the circuit. Looks like there's a right rear puncture there. That's the Sherma M2 GT. That was one of the leading lights in the 8T class. They were one of the quicker cars in that.
Yeah, fallen to 6th place though now.
Yeah.
And it is indeed a right rear puncture as he was coming down into Brünchen, I think.
Hans Martin Gass the driver.
That's the car that has the colour scheme that is curbs and tarmac.
And those cars run by Speedline Racing, run on Pirelli tyres. We've got all sorts of different tyre manufacturers here this weekend. And Yokohamas are used by some of the GT3s. We've also got Michelin and Dunlop well represented in the SP9 category, but also, as I say, the BMW Z4, which is the only SP9 last generation car, is on Italian rubber on Pirellis this weekend.
Hello to Kashiro. Nothing better than working on Nürburgring related artwork than having the RSL.
Yeah, I had a quick wander around the tyre compound, which is as big as a paddock at
is that the hard tyre compound or the soft tyre compound?
Yeah, quite. Bridgestone, Hankook, GT, Michelin, Dunlop, Pirelli, Falcon and Yokohama are tyre manufacturers who are all here, and I think are all providing tyres to Nürburgring 24-hour contenders. We have been thrown off track in the past because some of the support races have been in there as well. But the other one which I haven't yet established is Nexon. Nexon certainly have a car sponsored here, but I looked at the tyre yesterday in the garage and couldn't see whether it had Nexon tyres on it or not.
Hello to Kentucky, USA, and Brady Ritchie, who's tuned in using the hashtag N24RSL. Tyler Kinghorn asks question, what are the cones on track in front of the pit wall for? I've seen cars driving down it. Looks like it's blocking the normal pit in from the Nordschleife.
It is. That's exactly what it's doing.
Basically, you're not allowed in this session to come in from the Nürburgring into the pit lane. So it's blocked off. You will be allowed to do that in the race.
Yes.
But for this session, you're not. You have to go around and do a lap of the Grand Prix circuit and then peel back in.
That's right. And the reason it's there is so that people can get onto a flying lap without doing a full lap of the Nordschleife. If you're looking at it from the driver's point of view, if you're on the right-hand side of the cones, in other words, cones are on your left, then you're coming through onto the start-finish straight from the Grand Prix loop. But the fact that you've come off the Grand Prix loop means you can accelerate as hard as you like there without having to worry about a car coming in from the Dottinger Höhe into the pit lane, which might be struggling with a puncture or something like that. So it avoids that danger of traffic crossing.
So there's three ways to get down the start-finish line effectively. On the racetrack, straight off the Dottinger Höhe, where you're just going for the line and then you'll continue around the Grand Prix circuit. You could be coming in from the Grand Prix circuit and into the pit lane. Obviously, you'd then be on the pit lane side. The third way, the middle ground, if you will, there's always the third way, is to come off the Grand Prix circuit through a set of tyre wall chicanes on what would normally be the Coca-Cola curve, the last corner, and then filter back in, as Paul has described, onto driver's right on the start line and accelerate through. Good question, Tyler. And forget the people are coming to us all the time that we may not have seen that before.
Yeah, I watched from the other side of our lounge here yesterday for a little while, and it was fascinating to see because some cars, very eager to get a fast lap in, were accelerating as hard as they possibly could as they came out of what you call the Coca-Cola curved one. Yeah, that's the corner that it would be the final curve on the Grand Prix loop. But in order to get across the start-finish line at maximum speed, you do have to accelerate pretty hard out of the Coca-Cola curve. And that means that a fairly narrow straight, which is demarked by the cones on your left and the pit wall on your right, you're hammering down there at close to 180 miles an hour, trying to get as fast as you can down the pit straight.
Hello to Permaculturist. Ugly day on the pot stocks market. Closing my trading screens and settling down to watch the Nürburgring with you guys. New Brunswick, Canada, checking in. Hashtag N24RSL.
Up a position from 5th to 4th, Maxi Goertz with an 8:19.098. That represents the 48 Mercedes best time so far. And I'll be surprised to see Goertz actually now doing a Grand Prix lap and straight back in, although does have the option to head onto the hats and back one more time. 6 minutes to go. Laurence Vantor is currently out there in the 911 numbered Porsche. This car took pole position last year, and there is a chance that it might be repeated feat, although it looks like the Porsche might be trailing in terms of single lap speed. The Lamborghini, together with the Mercedes and the BMWs, that look very, very strong on single lap pace. The best placed Audi, still second fastest. Dries Vanthoor now at the wheel of that car, but it was a Fred Vervish time to put that Team Phoenix R8 LMS second fastest in the combined session times.
Jez Coleman in Michigan. You're going to come and see us at Road America later on in the year for the IMSA event. Says, sleeping tonight before the race will be like trying to sleep on Christmas Eve when I was a kid. Just one more sleep. P.S. I'll be reminding John to tell the Rally Doctor story tomorrow night. I will try and remember that, I promise. How many rookies in the Nürburgring this year? Lots. Or not that many, depending on which way you look at it. Paul has the numbers. I can hear a rustle of paper from my left.
That was only a rustle to see if I've got the information before I open my mouth. Yes,
and how's the Viper doing? Johnny can look this one up. Says Chris.
Well, that's one of the alternative fueled cars.
It is.
Skate Aid, I think, is the entry for that. And it is third in the AT category, the Dodge Viper CC. Last to be driven by Charles Reinhardt. But it's in the pits at the moment, so I think they may have called the session a day with just 4 minutes to go. Over the line goes Laurent Vanthoor, and it is an improvement up to fourth fastest now, was eighth previously. So the Manthey Racing already qualified Porsche leaps up to fourth position to make it Lamborghini, Audi, Mercedes and Porsche in the top four. So 4 different manufacturers now, and 3 of those 4 are already in to the session tonight at 7 o'clock. The only one that's not is the Lamborghini Huracan from Conrad Motorsports.
Okay. I can still hear lots of rustling in the background.
Number of rookies, I'm afraid.
Hashtag N24RSL, if you know. Vanthoor setting that personal best 8:18.851. Jamie Chadwick coming into the pits. No, it's not Jamie Chadwick. That must be another Chadwick. That's the 127 car. And that's not the car Jamie's in, as far as I remember.
No, it's not.
127. That'll be Christopher Chadwick then. A German driver from Cologne, or Köln, in the Manheller Racing Toyota GT86. Great car to drive around here in. It's one of the cars you can drive in to get your permit, of course, before you're allowed to get into the bigger engine cars. Before you come to the Nürburgring 24, you've got to have done a certain amount of laps in competition on the Nürburgring, plus some sim time and a written exam. Not how it used to be, but that's how it is now. And then you have to do a few more laps before you're allowed in the full fat cars.
Just to bottom out the Jamie Chadwick story, John, she is in number 37, has done 2 laps in this qualifying session. In yesterday evening's night qualifying, she didn't actually drive the car. That was shared between Alex Brundle and Peter Kate. So Jamie's done her only 2 laps in official qualifying in the session we've seen. 2 laps is all she needs to do. The better lap time of the 2, 9 minutes 21.394, but that's I can't tell you what was on the circuit in the way of slow zones or code 60s at that point. So
Shea Adam is listening in Port Carling at Tim Hortons. Could you get any more Canadian, Shea, doing our homework for the next big race for IMSA Radio? That's next week, 6 hours of the Glen, the Sale and 6 hours of the Glen, with all of the support races as well. That's over on RS2 from Thursday next week, and many of those in sound and vision as well on radio-show.co.uk. And hello to Adam Crossfire, who says, checking into the live feed after work, can anyone explain the qualifying format, or is there not enough time left in the weekend? Yeah, you got it. Worried about Rob Chalmers. There's a slow zone at the majestic Stafford South Services. He's waiting for the RAC to turn up. Only 3 hours so far. Rob, what's your problem, man? Sorry to hear that. N24 RSL. And Tim Barnes is cheering for Jamie Chadwick in that Aston Martin GT4, although that car running in the SP8T class.
Second in class at the moment. And it's Peter Kate said to me yesterday that they were worried about the speed of the Mercedes, and the fastest time for the Aston so far, 8:58.8. The Mercedes is on 8:51.2. So quite a bit quicker. This is the Black Falcon Mercedes, number 46. It is the prime competition. But the two Astons very well matched, 58.8 for the 37 car and a 59.9 for the 36 car.
There was improvement on that lap for Fred Makoviecki, who jumps ahead of the other Manthey Porsche. So one exchanged for number 12, the red and white entry. And into 12th position goes the Frenchman then. That is the Ricard Leitz, Fred Mako, Patrick Pilet and Nick Tandy car going into 12th place. And as I say, displacing Otto Klose, Lars Kern, Dennis Olsen and Matteo Cairoli's mount.
But all three Manthey cars are in the table of already qualified cars. So largely that is for bragging rights only, I suppose.
Matt Campbell coming into Tiergarten now. This is the 31 car, which is also already secured for this evening. But looking at, now with the clock at 0, so these cars will receive the checkered flag as they head over the line. That's a great lap then for Matt Campbell, despite the fact that he's already into top qualifying tonight. That's the number 31 car's best lap of the two sessions. Fricadelli Racing Team up to 5th position, therefore, and this could be a very special lap from Laurens Vanthoor as well. An absolute best through sector 6, and there are 3 PBs on this lap for Porsche number 911.
Nexon sponsored Cayman slow at Galgenkopf. It's the 141 car, so that might be getting in the way. Vanthoor keeping up the pace, Johnny. This could be very quick indeed, as you say, in the 911 Manthey Porsche. Sits in 4th at the moment with an 8.18.8. It's tight at the top, isn't it? 18.4, 18.5, 18.7, 18.8, 19 dead. 19 dead. 19.1. That's your top 7.
How close do you think it's going to be after top 30 qualify? Top qualify. I can't stop calling it top 30.
Just
flows off the tongue too easily.
Let's just call it the shootout. Let's just call it the shootout.
The ADAC has asked it to be called top qualifying.
Well, let's call it the shootout. Because that's what it is.
Not be listening.
It's single car qualifying, isn't it? Effectively,
exactly so.
It's a one-lap shootout for the top qualifiers. Make your own name up out of some of those words, but not necessarily using all of them. Vanthoor having to go around the outside of one of the C4S's, the Cayman S's rather. Now down through Flansgarden, he's got one car ahead of him. Oh, and the slippery surface flag as well. What a place to have the slippery surface flag out, or debris flag on the track, as he comes up to one of the GT Aston Martins. That's one of the Pro Sport cars. It's the 78 machine. And he will go to the outside as he heads into the triple apex right-handed complex, effectively, that leads onto the Dottinger. But he's got through and now has a good long run onto the Dottinger.
Quick shout for the number 38 Nissan GTR being driven by João Paulo de Oliveira, a superstar in Super GT in Japan, racing in the GT300 category in 2019, but has raced for Kondo Racing in 500s last year, up to 10th fastest, and that's by far the best Nissan GTR time of the last 2 days.
So tight on the Lamborghini time, less than a second in it. Pole sitter from last year, Laurens Vanthoor for Manthey, coming into the Tiergarten with a clear run, and this could be crucial all the way over to the left-hand side and into the escape road takes the curb on the right, now right to the edge of the circuit and almost grazing the triple layer Armco, hauls it back onto the Grand Prix track. 16, 17, 18, oh, he's a full second under, He's pulled all of that back, coming from the end of the Dottinger Hoa. He got the clean run, which I don't think the Lamborghini did when we were watching that early on, and that is a 17.449. What an extraordinary run, with time having elapsed whilst he was out on that lap. And we go back to back at the moment for Laurens Vanthoor in terms of his pole positions. Fred Makowiecki, though, may yet have a shout here, only down in 13th position. Makowiecki with some personal bests there. He's got a wee bit of time to make up, but there's few cars on the track ahead of him now, Johnny, and he should get a relatively clean run to the checkered flag.
Yeah, so this will be a good chance for the already qualified number 1 car. Remember, it was 9-1-2 last year, but they were champions in 2018, so take the number 1 as the race number. 14th position, very, very wide indeed, coming into the Schwalbenschwanz for the final time, and the car left the ground. Well, yeah, no, it did. Yeah. I thought actually that it got away with it, Fred Mako, but the Lamborghini looks not quite as stable through that part of the track, as there's drama for the number 11 Wochenspiegel Team Monchau Ferrari.
That car is going to have to be pushed away. The Rinaldi Racing Run car. It's Daniel Kalvitz behind the wheel of that car in 28th position, and that is at Brunchen, just being pushed away.
And that is one of the cars that needs to get itself into the top qualifying, not already qualified as a result of activities so far.
Here's Fred Mako. Oh, he's outside by a couple of seconds, but that might move him up to the top position. Vanthoor into the pits for Porsche. And here's his teammate into the Tiergarten, absolutely on the ragged edge. The tail of the Porsche wagging under braking there as he comes down from top gear to, first of all, 4th, then to 3rd and 2nd. Now the dash for the line. Here's Fred Mako. Makowiecki, can he get up somewhere close to his teammate? Well, he's inside the top 10 at 10, but he's lost some more time there, just underlining how quick Vanthoor was through the Tiergarten. Vanthoor was down nearly 9/10 of a second on the Lamborghinis. He came through the Tiergarten, made that up and more. That was commitment. That is back-to-back pole positions. Is there anybody out there, Johnny, who can still challenge that top time? 8:17.449, the only car in and driver combo that's in the 8:17s.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they could brag that it was back-to-back pole positions. They've got to do it again tonight, mind you. But
good point.
It's already in the session for this evening, and there's no reason why, if Laurent Vanthoor can do it now, why can he not repeat that feat later on when he's got an open road in front of him? And Philippe Eng speaking to us here earlier on, live from the Aston Martin Racing Lounge, saying that he has done top 30 qualifying in the past, as it's previously been named. He confirmed to us that it wouldn't be him qualifying the car tonight between 7 and 8 o'clock, but there is nothing quite like doing those laps on an open road, because it is just you and the car and the Nordschleife as cars continue to stream across the line. And in 33rd position, thank you to the Lumirank number system, 33rd for the number 30, Thomas Preining driven, Aberland sponsored Fricadelli Racing Team Porsche. So Vanthoor and the number 911 car with the fastest time from the 2 qualifying sessions so far, an 8:17.449, but we did know that that car was already into Friday night top qualifying. The next car, though, the second fastest car, is not already there, and I'm sure confirms its place. The Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. Michael Lyons last to drive it, but Marco Mappelli proving to be rapid in that Italian car, although with a very Audi engine, the 5.2 litre V10. Next fastest after 2 qualifying sessions, the number 4 Audi Sport Team Phoenix R8 LMS. That car was already in to tonight's qualifying session, as is the number 2 Mercedes Black Falcon AMG GT3, the Christodoulou, Maro Engel, Manuel Metzger, Dirk Muller car. Next up, the 31 machine. Late in the day, Matt Campbell brings that up to 5th position, but that's also into qualifying tonight. The next car that is trying to secure a place, and I'm sure will have done, with a 6th fastest time at the 48 Mercedes-AMG Team Manfilter GT3 car of Christian Hohenadel, Lance David Arnold, Raffaele Marciello and Maxi Goertz, and it was a Goertz time, 8:19.098 to put that 6th fastest. The 16 car 7th quickest, also yet to secure a place. That's another Mercedes from Get Speed Performance. The 14 car 8th quickest, also not yet in, but crucially for the Christopher Haase Team Car Collection Audi, despite dramas early on in the session, it was able to get back out again and set a time good enough for 8th fastest and therefore 4th fastest of the non-pre-qualified cars. Marcus Winkelhock, Christopher Haase, Marcel Fessler, René Rast. Next fastest, the 44 Falcon Motorsports Porsche, Klaus Bachler, Jörg Bergmeister, Martin Raginger and Dirk Werner. They were already in. And then the number 1 car, Manthey Racing, Richard Lietz, Fred Makovici, Patrick Pilet, Nick Tandy, last year's winners, and they were already in as well, but have qualified in 10th position.
Still to come tonight, live from the Aston Martin Racing Lounge, we'll have the shootout, the 1-lap qualifying run for an amount of cars, which won't be any more than 36 and will be slightly more than 28.
It could be 28, slightly more than 27.
Okay. Bigger than a rabbit?
Bigger than 27?
Right.
Smaller than 37.
Okay. Quick run through the leaders at the end. Now, that is the end of the classes, of course, being out there, Paul.
Those are class poles on that screen.
Right, so can you whip through the ones that we won't see tonight, if you don't mind?
Not at all, I don't mind at
all. And that'll wrap up this part of our programme.
So on pole position in the SP7 class will be the number 62 Mullner Motorsport Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. TCR pole position will be the number 170 Hyundai i30N. Cup X, that'll be the 111 Teichmann Racing Crossbow. SP6 pole, number 125, the Setup Wizard Racing Porsche 991 GT3 Cup class car. SP8, car number 46, Black Falcon Team Knuffi Mercedes-AMG GT4. That was SP8T, by the way, sorry. SP8, the number 49 car, Rent to Drive Familia Racing Porsche 991 Cup GT3. SP3T, the number 88 Subaru WRX STI. Cup 3 will be another Mullner Motorsport car, kind of a 303, making it a Mullner double there, because they've got a pole in SP7 and they've also got a pole in Cup 3. Different variations on the Porsche theme. SP10, Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport is on pole for SP10 with their BMW M4. The Alternative Fuels class, AT, will be the car number 420, Team Care for Climate, Porsche Cayman. Classe Cup 5 for BMW M24i Racings is another Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport car number 240. Class V6 is the Porsche Carrera of car number 133, Black Falcon again in V6. In SP5, BMW 1M for number 84, Leuthäuser Racing. In SP3, the Renault Clio of Michael Bohrer and Co, number 116. In V5, Andre Krumbach and Co, that's car number 145 there, Porsche Cayman. V2T, Manheller Racing is on pole with the BMW F30, car number 162. V4 is the 153 Hard Speed Motorsport BMW E90. SP40 pole for the VW Golf 5, number 85 of the MSC Timsich team. SP4 is led by the BMW 325 Coupe, car number 130, and V3T, the only other class that will be out there, the Porsche 718 of car number 718. Those all sitting on pole position for their respective classes, John?
And the top of the shop, thank you, Paul, for that. Ooh, very nice. Sitting at the top of the shop, well, TBD Johnny Palmer, but would you bet against Lawrence Van Toor? If he gets the shout, he's got to get the shout. Surely, he was mighty in that session.
Yeah, very, very good. I mean, it also helped in the fact that it was done late on, so the track was pretty clear ahead of the Belgian. 8:17.4, however, last year's pole position time, an 8:09.105. So that's the difference between
traffic and no traffic.
No traffic, yeah, but also sending the car out on next to no fuel.
Yes.
It might also mean, of course, an adjustment in the balance of performance, but I can still think we can shave a good 5 seconds off those times that we've seen. And 8:17.449 is a clear second quicker than everybody else.
I think we'll be somewhere knocking on the door of an 8:10. I think you'll take 7 seconds, 8 seconds off that. If things stay the way they are. It's a bit breezy, but it's been bright and sunny. And we'll be back bringing you all of the action live in sound, of course, on RS1 and RS3, and in sound and vision on our player at www.radio-show.co.uk. Johnny Palmer, John Hindhaugh, Paul Truswell and Joe Bradley. We're going for a lie down in a darkened room just to take a few deep breaths and take in what we've seen. We might just have some sugar and coffee as well, but that could be dangerous for what we'll see tonight. The top qualifying, which is, of course, the single lap shootout. That's all still to come, live from the Nürburgring and the Aston Martin Racing Lounge. Join us either in sound or sound and vision for them. Thanks to Kerry Cobb back in London for getting us on the air around the world. And, well, get your bets on now for who is going to plant it on pole position for this weekend's ADAC 24 Hours here at the Nürburgring.